Victor, we're going to talk one more dust off here before we take a break, and that would be the competition, the worrisome competition between rampant, growing irreligiosity versus artificial intelligence. Are you worried about either one of these, or which one worries you more? And I just heard you talk about your religiosity on a piece of wood in Libya, but go ahead.
You mean the decline of religiosity?
Yes, the decline of religiosity.
I'm more worried about. I know that in the end of everything, I looked at a popular account, as I said, of an AI simulation the Pentagon ran where they programmed self-survival into a intercontinental ballistic missile and put it on a computer simulation, and it was headed toward our enemy, and then they pushed the kill button, and on its own the thing circled back and was going to hit the Pentagon, and they couldn't stop it. In other words, that in the process of giving self-preservation prompts, electronic prompts to this algorithms, to this AI, it went on beyond that and said, anybody who tries to blow me up, I'm going to go back and get. So they canceled that. So I am worried about that. But I'll give you another example. I got a pathology report. I couldn't understand anything. It was the TBGA168Y gene is heterogeneous for this particular adenoma, all this stuff. I just typed grok and I cut and pasted it, you know what I mean? And I could not believe it. It said, this has scanned 421 scientific articles. 2 minutes later, it gave me the most clear, succinct explanation of exactly what percentage this, what would happen here, that. And I have never used it really before, but I've been using it the last month. It's amazing. The only thing I'm worried about is if stupid Victor is so stupid he doesn't even know what's going on. I've been teaching at a certain place, and I had noticed that some students were writing beautiful stuff. So just as an example, I thought, well, I'd like to write a book about Epaminondas the Great. And I just said, could you please write an essay on what were the chief achievements of Epaminondas? And it started coming out. And I remember it started recognized. It had the style and prose and syntax of a lot of some of the people that I had in class.
Yeah.
And my wife taught class. She's a PhD at a community college, and she is far more schooled than I am. And said, "Well, Victor, there are programs that can spot that." So that is danger. But I think all in all, AI will be valuable if carefully controlled, not regulated to the point of death, but monitored. But I am very worried about secularism, atheism. If you don't believe in any transcendence, then that it affects your humanism that says that you're only here and now. There's no mystery anymore. I mean, you don't know why you're here. And the Neoplatonists of the early church, when the words of Jesus Christ were recorded, both orally and later in the ensuing century by the four Gospels, they needed an architecture for a church. And so they were very learned people for the next 400 years, Jerome, Augustine, etc. So they did look at Neoplatonism. And, in Plato, that it's very clear that your soul is immortal and your body is not. And the metaphors that Socrates uses are the lyre, what we would call the harp. If the harp is destroyed, does that mean Auld Lang Syne? Say you're playing Auld Lang Syne on the harp and then you destroy the harp, does the song disappear? No. It only becomes reified when it has a body, an instrument. And in their way, theirs is not a Christian, but it's a transmigration of souls. So you die, and then your soul was either dented or ruined by your appetites, and you're given a reincarnated body until you get it right. And then finally you don't have to go through this process of memory, losing memory who you were, new identity. But the point I'm making is even the pagans believed that there had to be some transcendence. It's imprinted on our brain, and for people to say there's not, it's just a nihilistic creed in my view. And yeah.
Well, thank you.
It's very valuable. I don't want to get into what particular creed you are. I'm just saying that the Judeo-Christian tradition, and by the way, Jack, you pointed out that we're very confused in America why we have suddenly substituted the Judeo part, the Old Testament, and it's just, I was just...
We talked about that on a recent podcast.
You know, I knew Steve Bannon. I like Steve Bannon, but he was giving a talk, and he just said, we're going to Christianize the country. And I thought, well, you mean you're going to re-emphasize the Judeo-Christian creed? And he didn't say Judeo-Christian tradition, which would include the Old Testament and the contributions of Jewish culture to Christianity, or the fact that Jesus was Jewish himself. So
yeah.
I think it's very important that you have a Judeo-Christian dominant tradition, with exceptions that you are tolerant of Buddhists and Muslims and other people without diluting the main tradition that affected the founders. But
right.
It's
to act like the founders were blasé, or not ignorant, but uncaring about the Old Testament and Moses and the gang is just a lie. So
grandmother was a devout Methodist and took me to church. My parents were not devout. They were Christians, but they had grown up in kind of very rigid religious environment, so they kind of rebelled, I think. But they made it clear they believed in Christianity to me, and they felt that. But my grandmother would take me, and she would give me 20 cents for each poem. Now I lay me down to sleep, I pray my Lord the soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray my Lord the soul to. If I should live for other ways, I pray the Lord to guide my ways. 25 cents, 1959.
It's a lot of money. Yeah.
So I remembered them all. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think Christianity's done a wonderful thing, and the country will not survive without